Where did Cain get his wife if him and his family were the only ones on earth? Could it have been another society, a people before Adam and Eve? Let's talk about it. This question often arises from the verse Genesis 4:16 through 17. It is a very common question. So let's go ahead and read Genesis 4:16 through 17. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So we see there that Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. Notice the word knew there. That's actually the Hebrew word oida. And in Hebrew, it actually means to have sexual relations with. It does not mean that he went and found her there. It simply was that he knew her, had sexual relationships with her, and had children. Here's a few other examples of the word know being used in this context. Genesis 4:1. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Genesis 4:25. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth, for she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. So if Cain didn't go out and find his wife in the land of Nod, then who is this woman? How did he know her already? Well, let's look at Genesis 5:4 before explaining. The days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So it's also a common misconception that Adam and Eve only had 3 children. In fact, they had many sons and daughters, especially if Adam lived over 800 years old. You can imagine how many children there were and families starting to grow there. It wasn't only his siblings at this point, I'm sure. I'm sure his siblings had children. So maybe you're getting it by now, but his wife was his own sibling. Now, that is definitely looked down upon in today's society, as it should be. But we have to understand that if these humans were created directly by God, then their genetics were absolutely perfect. More than just discussed, but the reason that we don't breed with our close relatives now is because, let's say a mother and a father have the same genetic mutation, they get together, have children, well, those children will have the same genetic mutations plus more. But if 2 individuals that don't know each other get together, have children, each individual's genetics will make up where the other's fails. So therefore, it's a lot healthier if 2 individuals that are not related were to breed and have children. We see here in Genesis 3:20, the man called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So if Eve was the mother of all living, then this proves that there were no other humans on the earth. All humans did indeed come from her. So Cain absolutely had to have a wife from his own immediate family. I love the quote that Answers in Genesis gives on this. Adam and Eve were created perfect. It wasn't until after the fall that suffering and death affected mankind and every other living thing. One aspect of the suffering would have been mutations in the DNA that result in disease. Since Adam and Eve were created genetically perfect, their children would have had few mutations. Mutations in subsequent generations would have continued to increase and accumulate. Eventually, it became too dangerous to marry a close relative because of the increased likelihood of inherited disease, as I stated. During the time of Moses, approximately 2,500 years after creation, God forbade marriage between close relatives. It seems that one reason was health. Although the Israelites knew nothing of DNA, God did. He knew close relatives were likely to have the same mutations, since many diseases occur only when a child has 2 copies of the same mutation, one from mom and one from dad. Marriage between close relatives would be harmful to the Israelites. This is one of the reasons that such marriages are prohibited today, to prevent diseases that can afflict children of this kind of union. End quote. So we see there exactly as I had expressed, it was not wrong to marry your close relatives then and breed with them because you had to, especially if you were one of the first humans on the earth, you absolutely had to. Well, and that's all I have for you today. That is where Cain got his wife. It was in fact his sister or his niece. Thanks for watching Milk and Honey Ministries, and if you want more of this type of content, please go ahead and like this video and comment down below what you'd like to see more of. Thanks.